They fired twice through the tinted glass. My wife collapsed with a harsh gasp, chaos erupted, blood everywhere. One of the imposters shouted frantically, "She's armed," as if a clipboard and a military ID counted. They had no clue where they were. No idea who she was. They had just opened fire inside a military installation. 60 minutes later, their entire HOA neighborhood was swarming with federal vehicles. Bulldozers, forensic teams, legal units, and me, Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Mercer, leading the charge, holding a demolition order in one hand and sipping from my world's okayest husband coffee mug in the other. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Daniel Mercer, U.S. Army Logistics Command. My wife, Captain Emily Mercer, serves as the base's chief legal officer and my tactical superior. We lived adjacent to Willow Creek Meadows, an HOA governed, so-called, luxury community that advertised tranquility and charm. It delivered neither. The HOA's queen bee, Deborah Whitfield, was a miniature tyrant in designer suits, wielding her clipboard like it was a baton of absolute power. She once fined a Purple Heart recipient for having an unauthorized wind chime. Her newsletter, The Patriotic Sentinel, had gripping features like Weed of the Week and Unverified Suspicious Persons. Deborah despised us from day one. She patronizingly commented that military folks often lacked the soft touch needed for peaceful community living. All we wanted was proximity to base. She wanted her little dictatorship. The first encounter, she was crouched on our lawn measuring the grass blades with a laser level. She looked up, pasted on a synthetic smile, and said, "Welcome to Willow Creek, where appearance is everything." The harassment began with letters. Our flagpole was excessively tall. Never mind, it was the American flag, flown by active duty soldiers. Our driveway's hue was unsanctioned concrete gray. The approved palette was misty dusk, not stormfront slate. One day, Emily was cited for intimidating gestures because she saluted near the community bulletin board. The citation literally stated, militaristic gesturing with aggressive intent. Then came the so-called Willow Creek Safety Watch, a trio of WA goons in matching polos and cargo belts. They cruised in a golf cart outfitted with blinking amber lights and a siren that whined like a tortured seagull. They left passive-aggressive notes about patriotism infractions, and once followed Emily to the trash bins as if she were a fugitive. The head goon was Deborah's nephew, Todd Whitfield, a 33-year-old man-child living in his grandmother's basement, obsessed with fake badges. His sidekicks were Mike Stanton, Deborah's scorned ex-boyfriend, and Carl Boone, an ex-mall cop who insisted on calling everyone citizen, with a booming, theatrical voice. Official complaints ignored. The WA dismissed them as community volunteers maintaining neighborhood excellence. Then the harassment escalated. They ambushed Emily at the entry gate, demanding residency proof. One evening, Carl even lunged for her ID, claiming he had to validate the photo. Emily, composed as always, fixed him with a steely glare and said, "Touch me again, and you'll be explaining to actual law enforcement why you're impersonating an officer." Deborah's response, she accused Emily of threatening community defense personnel, and ramped up the provocations. They began tailing Emily to stores, snapping photos of her plates, reporting our neighbor's elderly beagle as our vicious guard dog. They even attempted to tow my vehicle while I was deployed overseas, claiming it was abandoned due to lack of movement. But the tipping point came on a Tuesday morning when Emily brought my forgotten lunch to base. The fake enforcers trailed her inside. They bypassed the civilian gate using forged credentials, bogus contractor IDs with laminated seals Todd printed at a copy center. The gate guard was new, maybe 20, and didn't suspect a thing. When Emily entered my office building, they followed, pretending to be federal community safety liaisons. I was in a strategy briefing when the disturbance began. Emily's voice, calm but unmistakably firm, echoed down the hallway, "You need to exit this facility immediately." Then Todd's shrill, fake authority voice, "Ma'am, under Federal Partnership Act 421, we have jurisdiction. That statute doesn't exist." He fabricated it on the spot. Then, in an act of complete madness, they attempted to detain her. Carl grabbed her arm. Mike reached for zip ties. Emily, trained in military law and hand-to-hand combat, identified herself. "I am Captain Emily Mercer, Judge Advocate General's Corps, United States Army. You are unlawfully present on federal property. Leave, now." When she moved toward the emergency phone, Todd panicked. "She's going for a weapon," he shrieked. Another shouted, "She's a threat." They pulled out their cheap, illegal pistols, bought off a gun show table, and fired. 2 shots. One struck Emily's shoulder. The other buried itself 6 inches from the base commander's portrait. Fatal mistake. Cataclysmic mistake. The building locked down instantly. Sirens blared. Within 30 seconds, military police had them surrounded. Within 2 minutes, Todd was sprawled on the floor, sobbing it was all a terrible misunderstanding. Within 5 minutes, federal agencies were on high alert. The HOA had just assaulted a U.S. military officer on sovereign federal grounds. I bolted from my meeting to see Emily, blood-stained but composed, giving a meticulous witness statement to the MPs. That's my wife, bleeding, yet building the case brick by brick. The intruders were cuffed, isolated in different vehicles. Todd wept, blaming Deborah for everything. Mike claimed they had citizen arrest jurisdiction. Carl just kept repeating, I demand my attorney, on loop. Deborah was arrested mid-scone at a HOA brunch meeting. Federal agents stormed the Willow Creek clubhouse while she was lecturing retirees about birdbath placement ordinances. Her face, when told she was under arrest for orchestrating a felony assault, was priceless. She tried to quote HOA bylaws to federal agents, insisting they needed a quorum vote to detain her. They laughed. The investigation was surgical. The so-called safety watch wasn't just a neighborhood nuisance. It was a covert operation bankrolled through embezzled HOA funds, hidden under landscaping expenses. Their group chat, titled Operation Neighborhood Shield, was a collection of illegally taken surveillance images. Their training consisted of YouTube tutorials like how to fake authority without legal trouble. Forensic accountants unearthed it all. Deborah had been siphoning off HOA dues for years, paying her enforcers in cash, buying surveillance drones, even renting storage units filled with phony law enforcement gear. Over $300,000 misappropriated. The HOA's maintenance budget was obliterated. Fraud charges, misappropriation of funds, impersonation, tax evasion, conspiracy, the charges stacked up. Emily was stable, recovering, furious. From her hospital bed, she began drafting legal motions with her uninjured arm. The Department of Defense came down with the weight of a freight train. General Sophia Kane, the base commander, took personal interest. Attacking military personnel on base triggers a dozen federal statutes and infuriates powerful people. Within days, Willow Creek Meadows was declared compromised due to organized criminal activity. A court ruling enabled the base to invoke eminent domain, establishing a security buffer. Residents were given 2 choices: accept a buyout at reduced value, due to the incident's notoriety, or prepare for protracted legal warfare they couldn't financially endure. Bulldozers arrived. The Grand Willow Creek entrance, with its ostentatious stone archway, was the first casualty. Deborah's ostentatious beige McMansion, ironically non-compliant with her own HOA's color palette, followed. Standing where Deborah's meticulously curated garden once bloomed, I watched federal agents catalog boxes of Patriotic Sentinel newsletters while she sobbed over her confiscated HOA flag. She wailed about property values as forensic accountants methodically read her rights. The court proceedings were swift and merciless. Military court handled the assault. Federal court addressed everything else. Emily, still healing, delivered devastating testimony. Todd's defense crumbled when prosecutors revealed his texts. We're gonna tail that military witch onto base and show her who's boss. Mike's claim of PTSD from his days as a mall cop was dismissed with the judge's deadpan remark, dealing with teenagers skateboarding near food courts does not qualify as combat trauma. Carl, wisely, pled guilty to all charges. Sentencing was brutal. The trio of imposters received 15-year federal prison sentences, assaulting a federal officer, impersonation, conspiracy, no parole, no leniency. Deborah Whitfield was slapped with a 5-year federal sentence for fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy, alongside a $2 million restitution order that guaranteed her financial ruin. She screamed in disbelief as the verdict was read. Her dreams of neighborhood tyranny had cost her everything.